Welcome to Season 2 of Queerantine. This podcast, we talk about all things queer and all things quarantine, and this season we're focusing on the reopening and how that's going for everybody. This week, I'm joined by Toronto drag legend, Nicolette Brown.
I'm not too bad, hanging in there like everybody else.
Nice. So first, I guess if you don't mind sharing your pronouns.
Okay, so my pronouns are she and her.
Okay. And then I believe I've been following you a little bit on Instagram for a while now. I first saw you perform at my birthday brunch. Back in January, you were covering for Aaron and Priyanka because they got stuck somewhere.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Bell?
Yeah. You and Bell Bell. So my friend Zach actually wanted me to mention that you inspired him during that brunch. He has a one-woman show called The Last Communion of Saint Merlola, I think, that he does in drag. And you performed Fucking Bitch at that brunch. So he actually took that song and put it into his show because you did it at brunch.
Yeah, it's just a silly, fun song. So, that's I do remember that show. It was like I remember it was like snowing at one point that day. And oh shit, nobody's gonna show up, and then it was actually quite busy. It was a fun show. I love working with Bell Bell. She's amazing. It's really cool to know that your friend was inspired to put that song into a show. That's just a silly. I find it's just a silly song. It gets people going, especially if you're in a situation because like Aaron wasn't there. Don't have the familiarity of having the regular host to kind of get the audience going. So it's just that one of those songs that I like to do. Like it just gets you like, oh, okay. Like they wake up if the audience isn't really responding. You do that song and people just get right into it. So I really enjoy that song. It's just super silly and just craziness, but it's a lot of fun. So
yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember, I think 1 or 2 tables over from me, there was a table of like 3 or 4 parents and all of their children. And when you started doing the song, you were like, "Great."
Yeah, I think that might have been the brunch where accidentally I was doing that song and I thought I was pointing at somebody else, but I was pointing like at a little girl, and I was like, oh shit. But it just tended to be like a funny moment because there's nothing serious. We're not there to be offensive. It's just to be funny and whatnot. So yeah, that I do recall that show. That was pre-COVID.
Yes.
So you wanted to speak about being queer. I guess for me it's more not just being queer, it's being transgender and being a person of color, being Black and transgender.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do I say? For me, I transitioned in 2011. I've been doing drag since 1995.
Wow.
Yeah, so 95, started 1995, December of 95, and by December of 96, I knew I was transgender. But that was back in the 90s when there wasn't as many protocols for like transitioning, how like hormone therapy, stuff like that. It was just kind of like the wild, wild west. Like, oh, here, take these pills or take this cream with estrogen in it or whatever.
Right.
It was such a different time back in the 90s. So I didn't transition in the 90s and waited till 2011 when I was more mature. I was sure it's what I wanted to do. So far, I guess I've been fairly lucky, especially living in Canada where we do have access to doctors and therapists. So I don't know. For me, coming out in 2011, I found it wasn't the easiest thing, but like, it's never going to be easy. Even if you know who you are, it's still that process of just going from changing from living as one gender, living to another gender. People, your friends, family, people like letting them know, hey, this is happening or whatnot. So, but I guess I don't know. Like everybody has their trials and tribulations. For me, as far as the medical side, like I got a good doctor. I have a nurse practitioner. I also had therapy when I decided to transition. So there was a group at 333 Sherburne, which is called Gender Journey. So it was like people who were about to transition. So they had different speakers come in and they talked about hormone therapy. There was like a session where you had friends come in. So it was just a group where people transitioning, whoever male to female, female to male, whoever, or even some non-binary people that were in the group. They were just exploring, I guess, people that their pronouns were they, them. That's non-binary, right?
Um, yeah, I mean, it depends on the non-binary person. So hmm, I'm not speaking very well, but I'm non-binary as well. I'm gender fluid. So because I kind of float between the feminine and the masculine and sometimes agender as well, I just find it for myself it's easier to go by they them so that I'm not like changing my pronouns every other day.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but depending on the person, it just depends. So I know some agender people will use they them. Other non-binary people will use they she or she they. It
Okay.
all just kind of is individual, which is kind of cool
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
gender's pretty fucked up, anyways.
I remember being in that group. That was the first time I'd really even been exposed to gender neutral or gender non-conforming. Uh, and people like the they them pronouns. I was that was back in 2011. That was 9 years ago. So it was a little bit. It wasn't as maybe as mainstream as it is now. So, but it was kind of good just being in that group. There were trans people, gender neutral, gender non-conforming. So that was part of my journey. So at least I had the support of, again, having a therapist, having a nurse practitioner, a doctor. Yeah. So back then, 2011, that's when I got my first job. I started working for a makeup company. I'm not going to name the makeup company. At the time, I thought it was my dream job because I thought, okay, this is a makeup company where they're very open, accepting. It'll be a great place to transition. And
Mhm.
probably a month into the job, I wasn't presenting as female, but a month in, I started presenting as female. That was like July of 2011, and since then I've been presenting as female. Since
Mhm.
then, so I guess this would be part of my experience. Again, I'm not going to name the company because at first I thought, okay, this is my dream job. I'm transitioning. I'm someplace that's supportive. But as time went on, I found out it wasn't as supportive as they said they was. To me, it was just more lip service than anything else.
Right.
Um, so it would just happen to be that the environment that I was in, that where I was working there for 6 years. The most I ever got was I got 15 hours permanent. So it means that no matter what happened, like I never got less than 15 hours. But um, with I would see other people come in like within 6 months to a year, they'd be full time with benefits. Uh,
Hmm.
even they had like processes for make training to do like makeup applications. So there's like a process, but certain people were like, if I did my certification for the makeup application, there'd be like, they'd say, oh, well, you took a little bit longer. And then other people would go through the same process. And the trainer would say, oh, well, what's your time? And they would still pass that.
Oh.
So, yeah, so there was just a lot of, and I wasn't the type of person like saying I wanted people to give me things that I wasn't entitled to, but I just wanted to be treated fairly. So if I don't get a pass to I guess to go on to doing one-on-one applications with a client because
Hmm.
I went over time, then why are other people getting that same pass? So
Yeah.
it was just that, and just the being underemployed, and also I had a letter where they because I was moving back in 2015, so it happened a bit ago. Well, not that long ago. It's only 5 years ago,
Yeah.
considering. Um, but I had a letter. I asked them for a letter of employment because I was moving, and they misgendered me in the letter. And I was like, I was okay. I was like, I sent them a letter. Said, listen, basically, you misgendered me in this letter. La 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 la, ray ray ray. That was like on a Friday evening, so I didn't expect to get a response right away. It's Friday, like after 5 p.m.
Hmm.
So I was like, okay, maybe Monday I'll hear something. Monday comes, Tuesday comes, Wednesday I finally call them, and I was like sent directly to the head of human resources, not even like a manager, not like the director of human resources. And so I explained my situation. I was misgendered and this and that. And she's like, well, well, sorry you feel that way. And that
No.
sorry you feel that way. It's like, well, how am I supposed to feel when you misgender me in a letter? So basically, I'll make this the short version of everything. I ended up basically filing a claim with the Human Rights Commission, and they had no case. They had no case. I had all the proof that where they misgendered me in the letter of employment, basically being again underemployed, other things that they did. I had even had a coworker that I used to work with years ago before I transitioned was going around to coworkers and being like, "Oh, I knew Nikki before Nikki was Nikki. La 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 la. Her name was la." Just spilling all my tea to people.
Ooh.
Yes, and they tried to. So I basically confronted this person and I said, "Listen," I said, "keep my name out your mouth." I said, it's not your job to tell other people my business." And
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, no, I'm so proud of you." And this, I said, "You can be proud of me all you want." I said, "But like I said, keep my name out your mouth. Again, it's not your place to tell people my business."
Mhm.
And she went off and acting all like, oh, she's like, "Oh, I'm so offended and blah, blah, blah." I said, "Well, you're the one going around outing me to people. So if you want to be offended, then be offended." And they tried to use that to say, "Oh, I was aggressive in my words and language." And this, I'm like, I'm being harassed at work. I'm being outed, but I'm the person who's aggressive. So they try to pull that, "Oh, are you trans? Are you, I don't know, we don't know when you transitioned, this and that," and being outed by people and trying to say that I'm aggressive and that same old racist garbage about, "Oh, you're the angry black woman," but then
Yeah.
claiming that if I even transition, so it's like, which is it? Have I transitioned? Am I transgender? But then trying to claim the angry black woman card. So yeah, it was a little crazy. So I have had situations where I've had to deal with, but I think in the end it's made me a stronger person. I don't put up with BS. I don't, And anyways, long story short, I did win my case, um, and I moved on from there. I was like, okay, I won my case, and I was like, bye, I quit. So it's one of those things. Being being again like a triple minority, black, transgender, and a transgender woman. So these are things that is the reality for trans people. So, but anyways, we'll move on from that. So that happened. I went out into the world. I worked as Nikki as myself. And that I took a 4-year hiatus from performing, because I just needed some time just to kind of figure out who I was outside of drag.
Right.
Because people, yes, 'cause people just knew me as my drag persona as Nicolette Brown, and I was like, okay, I need to figure out who the hell I am. So I took 4 years off. I didn't perform. I didn't do any shows. I was just working. Um, and then in 2017, I came back and doing drag. So I've been performing again for like the last 3 years. So yes, that's a short little synopsis of maybe not everything. There's a whole lot packed in between there, but we'd be like talking for hours if I was to go into detail. But
Of course, yeah. Well, yeah, because you said you transitioned 9 years ago, so there's at least 9 years of stories regarding your transness that we could talk about. But there's however many years before that of your blackness that we could talk about too, and that's a whole other thing, um, that
it's a whole other ball of wax.
it's yeah. Yeah, we could go on for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. But I mean, that's part of the reason that I wanted to start this podcast was because I really wanted a really good, inclusive, intersectional telling about the queer experience. Um,
Mhm.
because right now, let's be real, it's kind of mostly told from the white cis gay men perspective.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring in other people that are like people that are usually erased, right? So I've had a lot of bisexual people. I'm non-binary. I'm also pansexual. Like, just the sexualities and the genders that are not usually discussed in terms of queerness. I really wanted to bring those stories forward, because they're not the minority of the queer community.
No.
You know, the stories that are out there are the minority of the queer community. So that's a big reason that I wanted to start this was because like we need more representation from our QT BIPOC people and like white people that are bisexual and pansexual and like the whole rainbow, not
Yeah.
just like one color.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Um let's talk about gooped and gagged.
Oh, so Goops and Gag, that is my um costume design business I started back in, it was like about a year ago, maybe like August of
Mhm.
2019. It just started actually with Stephanda Cox, who had actually commissioned me to do a piece for her, like this really big, long, white, flowy, like cape. So I did it for that one. Gosh, I probably spent about 14 to 16 hours working on it. Yeah, it was quite detailed, and so it started with that. Then she got a couple more pieces from me, and I just said, you know what, let me just give this a try and see if I can do this on the side as well. Because being in the drag community for since 1995, I know a lot of the drag performers like Fonda Cox. Pretty much everybody's done Drag Race, like Boa. Actually, Tainomi Banks is my drag daughter as well.
Is
Um,
she? I did not know that. I
yeah,
love
yeah,
her so much.
yeah. Yeah, uh, yeah, she's quite phenomenal. So Taimony Banks, I even named her. So I have a
Oh.
lot of daughters. I have tons of drag daughters. That's a whole nother ball of wax to get into. Yeah, so I started in August of 2019. Previously in 2010, I was actually working for a costume designer, and we used to do a lot of things at Ruffles. So I really got obsessed with doing Ruffles, something with tulle.
Mhm,
She recently, like a lot of the headliners, big name performers like Jennifer Lopez, Lizzo, even Brooklyn Heights had a whole photo shoot where she had like I think like a nude colored tulle outfit. So it was very big, like all these big fluffy tulle
mhm,
dresses and whatnot. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of my thing. So I started in 2019. Um, I was doing really well until the pandemic hit and all the fabric stores closed down and whatnot. So I haven't really done anything in that in a while. I did a commission for a friend actually in Dublin, Ireland.
oh,
uh, yes, her name is Davina Divine. She's in Dublin, one of my good friends. So I did something maybe that was about 2 months ago now. So I haven't officially relaunched, but that's something that's in the works.
yeah,
Right now, I'm kind of taking a bit of a break. I'm just enjoying the summer, trying to as I can. Also, to getting back that cruise is open now. Um, yeah, so just kind of taking things in stride. Peach and Gag will be back at some point. I'm not sure exactly when. Maybe like September,
mhm,
October. Just kind of taking things easy, and because with this whole pandemic, everything's been. I think everybody's been under a lot of stress, anxiety, and sometimes I think that pressure to be like, oh, I need to be busy, I need to be doing something, and sometimes it's hard to do stuff, and it's just hard to find that motivation. And um, yeah, so Peach and Gag is there, it's still there. I'm still doing it. But I just have to like officially throw myself back into that, but I will get back to that at some point.
mhm. They're gorgeous, the designs.
Thank
Um,
thank you.
like I said, I've been following you since I went to that brunch. So I've been seeing all the development of the Gooped and Gag designs, and they're so pretty and
Thank
like
you. Thank you.
flowy, and like I love how they like tear apart too, and then it's just they're great.
They're actually most of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are convertible. So some of them, they're pieces that can be worn as like a cape, and then it could be worn as a skirt. Or
Mhm,
yeah, it's designed for drag performers, and for a drag performer, you if something is kind of multi-purpose, or you can have something underneath, you can rip it off. It creates drama. So being someone who's in that business, I kind of understand the functionality of a garment that you don't want to just be one thing. So if it could be a couple of things, and you could remove it and wear something underneath, and again create drama. It's really it's meant for stage. So that's
yeah.
why I like creating it things that are more than one, are multifunctional. So yeah, thanks for noticing.
Of course, yeah. I'm a little drag baby too. So like I've been following all the queens and a couple of the kings around the city, and yeah, I'm trying to like learn as much as I can. The pandemic has been hard because you can't get out and see people and like get the tips from the queens and the kings at the bars. Um but I don't know. At least there's Instagram.
Definitely, at
Yeah.
least with social media that has helped people to stay connected, which is good.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. I love drag though. I first got obsessed with drag when I was 10.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I watched The Birdcage with Robin Williams and oh, I'm blanking on his name.
Um. Oh god, he's like short, dark
Yeah.
hair. Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
But
I
yeah,
could.
so I
Hey,
watched that.
Nathan Lane.
Nathan Lane.
Yes.
That's what it is. Yeah. So that was my first experience of drag ever, was when
Oh
that
wow.
movie came out. I was 10 ish. Um and I was obsessed from then on. I was like, "This is amazing. Like, look at that makeup. I love the performing, the singing, the dancing, everything about it, every single thing." And then growing up as AFAB, I was like, "That's not a space for me. I can't
Yeah,
do that." And then I moved to Toronto, and everybody was like, "What the hell are you talking about? If you want to do it, go do it."
exactly.
Yeah, so that's great. But I'm from Calgary, Alberta originally, so
Yeah.
things are not as progressive and welcoming there as they are here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I think there's like one gay bar in the city.
Oh, wow. Oh, so there's not even a lot of spaces to perform or do drag, and yeah, so probably it's probably a bit more closed off because whoever's in those spaces are probably protective of, like, you
Yeah,
know. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So when I moved here, I was like, oh my god, there's like this whole gay village for me to enjoy, plus all the stuff in the West End,
Oh, yeah.
um, which is all incredible. I love it so much. It's just nice to be able to like go out with other queer people and like feel good and feel safe.
Yes, that's very important, definitely.
Yes. Yeah. So I guess we'll start talking about a little bit about the reopening. What was keeping you busy during the lockdown?
Oh god, keeping me busy was, keeping my sanity,
That too.
um, yeah, I don't know, I wasn't one of the some people are just like, "Oh, I was baking bread or learning this." Honestly, like, I was just going, like, day to day, just surviving because, honestly, it was just especially right in the beginning when everything all the bars closed down, it was kinda scary. It was like, "Okay, how am I gonna make money? Like, how long is this gonna go on for?" So I was just like, I think a lot of people just, living day to day, doing what you could to survive. Like, if it meant just watching Netflix and just chilling and maybe just taking your mind off of everything that's going on because especially in the beginning when, like, there was toilet paper shortages and you're like, "What the hell is going on in the world?" Like, it was just everything all at the same time. So for me, honestly, like, normal mundane things kept me busy, like doing laundry or going to the grocery store, which you couldn't in the beginning go to a lot. So, um, regarding reopening, it was nice. I started back at Cruise and Tango's July 24th, I think. Don't quote me on that. I think it was like a Wednesday. So either it was a July, no, June. Was it June or July? Oh God, the
I
months
think
and the
it would have
dates.
been
Like,
July, but like time's not real anymore anyways.
oh, I think it might have been end of June. Yeah, because I think we'd done several weeks before they started phase three. So I
Okay.
think it was like end of June. We were phase two, where we were open on the patio.
Mm,
So all the shows were outdoors, but they had the stage set up so that we were far enough away to be socially distanced. We don't have to wear masks outside, but so it was kind of like a mixed reaction because I was actually at the first show, which was a Wednesday night. Again, I think it was June 24th or 26th, something somewhere around there.
mhm.
And at first, when I got the call, I was like, "Oh my gosh, we're opening again!" And I remember I was like on my way to go get some wine because you do during the pandemic, you just you go get some wine. And so that's great. I have something to celebrate. And when I got like that, when I got home, like that, the whole night into the next day, I was just like stress and anxiety. I was excited to go back, but at the same time, just like, oh my God, like what is going back to the bar and working the bar? 'Cause we hadn't been closed for 3 months. Like, what is that going to look like? Like, what safety precautions are in place? And so it was just a different vibe having to go back. But once I went back, it was fine, other than it being hot and sweaty outside because this summer we've had like what 35, 40, 38, like, I think they said we had 17 or more 30-degree weather days this year, like, this summer. So,
Yeah, it was hot. It was a
yeah,
hot summer for sure.
definitely. And then imagine being outside with, like, makeup and hair and
Yeah.
and dance tights and a costume, and it was quite a bit, but, it's one of those things where at least we're kinda, like, back out in society a little bit and so had some kind of feel of normalcy, even
Mhm.
though it's 100% normal again. Even one night I was just out, at cruise, like, up on there's like a little patio in the back, like
Yep.
upstairs seating area,
Mhm.
and we were a little bit like the social distancing at cruise actually they take that quite seriously, like with the temperature checks and people coming and email or telephone numbers for contact tracing. So
Okay.
being in the bar felt quite safe. But I remember this maybe like 2 months ago, and I was like, wow, I can't remember the last time I've been out on a like Saturday night past 10:30. So it was just that kind of feeling of a bit of like some sense of normalcy. So going back into the bar so far, it's been really good for me. Again, it gives you something to do, a place to go out and to be and do something. Because I find it's been kind of just easy, not easy, but maybe we've been in that state of just being at home, being inside, and we're just. I mean, I've had enough of Netflix. I've had enough of Prime Video, crazy. Like there's, I can't do it anymore. So just having that sense of that quasi normalcy, I guess it's
Mhm.
nice, something to go back to.
Yeah.
And now that we're inside the bar with stage three, it's so inside the bar, so outside the bar, the patio, we don't have to wear masks because we're far enough away, and it is outdoors.
Right.
So again, the mask wearing policy is a little bit less strict inside or outside, sorry,
Right.
because you're in an outdoor space. But inside, we do have to have masks on, and same safety procedures are followed by patrons. When they come in, they have to have the mask. They're seated. They only can move, or they can only when they're seated because they're drinking. They can have their mask off. But if they're moving to go to the bathroom, whatnot, and they have to stay within their own group of people, so yeah, so it's a little bit different. But it's nice to be inside though. Air conditioning and fan, not as crazy, not as hot, so that's really nice.
Mhm.
Yeah, so overall, it's been quite good. But for me personally, I've had a couple bars and people approach me say, "Oh, would you like to work here? Would you like to do there?" And for me, I'm from my own personal safety or personal what's that word? What's the word I'm looking for? For my own personal
State of mind, I guess.
mind, yes. For
Yeah.
my own personal state of mind, I've chosen just for now. I'm just working specifically cruise and tangos, but that's where I've like started when they started phase two, going to phase three. That's where I feel more comfortable. So I know other bars are starting up to do shows and whatnot.
Mhm.
But for me, for now, I'm just staying with the one bar because at least for me, I think, especially with COVID, you just don't know anything can happen. So at least I know. I think I have a peace of mind knowing that if something has happened and I've been out somewhere,
Mhm.
that one place I've been out is most likely going to be cruise.
Right.
So it kind of limits that. Oh well, where was I? What bar was I working at, or whatnot? So yeah, so I think so for me that's how it's been, just working at the one bar. But there are other performers that are working other bars that they haven't worked at before. So I guess it's just about making that money. So people have to
Mhm.
do what they do. So it's a difference for the performer. But for me, I like the safety of just being at one place for now. So yeah,
No, that makes a lot of sense. Because that way you don't have to think like, okay, if I was exposed by someone at cruise, who did I then possibly expose at Woody's or at the drink or at
yeah.
Flash or so that makes a lot of sense. Not only for your own personal safety, but then you don't have to think back to like who you have come in contact with to notify them, right?
Oh, exactly. So yeah, but that's it just goes to show the times that we're living in. So so far, knock on wood, so far so good. Things have been really amazing. We were like what almost close to a month or 3 weeks in now, with stage three,
Mhm.
and so far so good. So hopefully, fingers crossed, things stay this way, and we'll be able to continue um, doing our shows and making some type of livelihood. So
Mhm. Yeah. I think my only concern at this point is schools reopening and what that's going to do.
yeah, well, thank God I don't have any kids. So
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, it is a concern because I know some people who are teachers and they're very worried about that. So it's yeah, it's quite a scary time. It's especially with the in the states they had a lot of reopening, and
Mhm.
they did have a lot of infections. So who knows? So it's just that's the thing with this whole situation, the pandemic, COVID, everything is just so up in the air. Everything is uncertain. So yeah, it's
Yeah. It's unprecedented times for sure.
definitely
Yeah. Yeah, it's scary, but I mean, at least most people at least have been coping fairly okay, so that's good. Um, I've noticed here since Toronto put in the bylaw that you have to wear the masks in public spaces, I haven't really noticed a lot of people putting up a fight about that, which is good, at least in the neighborhood that I live in.
Okay.
Um, Whereas, like, you see things on Instagram of people like anti-maskers in the states putting up that huge fight. So it's nice to live in a place where people are at least baseline respectful.
Yeah, I could say, yeah, agree in somewhat, but there are anti-masker groups here in Canada as well,
Yes.
but not as such a huge amount of people, but they're still here.
Yeah.
But I do see some every once in a while. I see people in the grocery store with the mask on their chin or their nose hanging out. I'm just, when I'm in public, I'm like, let me not look, let me just walk away because I want to say something to people. But I'm like, you know what? Um, During COVID, I find more people are very like volatile and very like ready to explode, and
Yeah.
like because even I had a situation. I was at the grocery store, and this woman was like, because they have the markers, and you're supposed to like wait have the space. This woman's like right beside. I'm like, do you mind? Can you back up? So I've had to say to people like,
Mhm.
give space. So
Yeah.
overall, it's not horrible, but there are some people that are just not mindful and have their mask around their chin or have their noses hanging out or don't even like give people some space. But overall, it's not that bad. So
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely know what you mean. At the Loblaws that I shop at, there's one deli worker specifically that every single time I'm in the store picking up my groceries, he's prepping the food and cooking the food and his mask is under his nose. And I'm like, this is why I don't feel safe ordering food in because, like, yes, they have to wear a mask, but like you don't know what they're doing.
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why is your nose hanging out? Like,
Yeah.
it's not that hard to. They
Yeah.
say cover your nose and cover your chin. So it's like, uh. Anyways,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel you.
You would think it would be easy.
For some people, it's not.
True. Very true. But I guess that could be said about everything in life, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. Is there any other queer stories or quarantine stories that you want to share before we end up or end?
um, Trying to think. I don't know. I just for me, it's everybody's different. During these unprecedented times, like the bars are open. I know for me, I found my space where because I know the staff, I know the people that work there. So for me, I find like having that little, maybe not a store, but just having that place to go where you can be social now.
Hmm.
It Even though it can be daunting at times, but once you have your mask on, once you're sanitizing, washing your hands, following safety procedures, you can still go out and you can still have some sort of normalcy. So I think for me, it's just like if you feel comfortable, I think then go out. If you're not comfortable being inside, don't go inside. But I think it it's just natural to after being locked up for so many months that we just need to have that social interaction. Like
Hmm.
was out Wednesday night just to see some people and say hi. I just went out for a couple hours, but just now that we have that option, I'm so thankful. Thank God we're in phase three. So I guess that's my only thing I have to kind of end with because everything's so up in the air. You never, who knows what will happen when we have our second wave or what it's going to look like.
Hmm.
Just kind of taking it day by day and enjoying the little bit of social interactions that we're allowed to have. So yeah, so I'm just taking it day by day. It's still not over. I know there's some people are acting as though the pandemic doesn't exist.
Right.
Um, I guess I'll give a little story, but I'm not judging anybody, whatnot. But I was at the beach yesterday. It was Saturday, and it was crazy busy. And the main part of the beach, I didn't see social distancing. And of course, you're on the beach. You're not gonna have your mask on. And I was like way in the corner. Like I had my own little area. I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't need to be up in the mix. But some people, I think, and I get it. People want to be out. People want to be around people and drink and socialize. But it's like some people are just kind of acting like the pandemic is over and it's not. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next coming weeks, months. But for now, I'm just going to kind of take it in stride and do what I can to keep myself safe and just enjoy whatever freedoms we do have right now. Because I guess they're kind of few and far between, and who knows when that could change. So that's about it, I guess.
Yeah. I'll ask you one more quick thing, and then we'll end. Do you have any piece of advice for young Black trans women that are just coming to terms with that identity?
um, I guess the best piece of advice I would give is if you are you're young, you're black, and you identify as being trans, find there's resources. So you're lucky. I think people are coming out as trans now. They have a lot more resources. So you have access to doctors, you have access to therapists. I know a 333 Sherburne is a really good resource. It's someplace you can look up. That's where I went, and I know they have. This was back in 2010, I think I was there. I know at the time, I know they did have choices for a therapist. So they had either you could have a free therapist that provided the care, there's no cost to you, or they have paid.
Hmm.
Not sure how that's changed now. That was 10 years ago. Also may have changed with the pandemic. But I know 333 is a really good resource. Sometimes too, I know nowadays, even if you go and speak to a doctor, if you have a family doctor, that you
Hmm.
could, they should be able to refer you to someone if they're not, if they don't. I don't want to say this correctly. If they are not familiar or they're uncomfortable with treating a trans patient, there's
Right.
always sources in place they can go to refer, like a family doctor can refer you to someone who has dealt with or has trans patients or takes on trans patients. So I guess the best thing I would say to them, just do your homework, get referrals, find a good doctor, find a therapist, and usually those things are covered by your basic OHIP. I didn't pay anything when I found my doctor, when I found my nurse practitioner, also my therapist again, which was at 333 Sherburne, which is
Hmm.
I don't know exactly what it's called. At Sherburne Health Center, that's what.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you are in Toronto, that's a resource. Other places outside Toronto, I'm not too sure. But I guess if you can look up and you can find places that can support you. That's the main thing is having support, and
Hmm.
then you can just go from there because that's the best place to start. So you have someone you can speak to, you have someone who can give you options as far as doing hormone therapy or whatnot. So I think that's the best thing. Start with getting support.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. I really, really appreciate it. It
my
was
pleasure.
great to talk to you.
Wonderful talking. Thank you
Okay.
so much. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Queerantine, the podcast where we talk about all things queer and all things quarantine. I'd like to thank today's guest, Nicolette Brown, for joining me. I will be linking Nicolette Brown's Instagram accounts for both her Gooped and Gagged and her drag account down below in the description of this episode. And if you would like to follow me on Instagram, you can find me at generation.q. That's JENNARATION.q. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time in Queerantine.